Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Bow and Arrow Tarot. Today we're going to get into one of the air sign love November readings for Gemini. All right, so Gemini, you're up. I'm going to alternate between the earth and air signs and get the rest of the November love readings up today and tomorrow. So Gemini, how's it going? We are going to get right into your Celtic spread for November, and this is going to be all about love relationships or things that may be impacting a love connection. It may be a reading that indicates it is for singles or those who are about to get involved or those who are already involved. It really depends on what the cards spread is. And so please just take what applies to you, right? If the reading doesn't resonate with you or if there's nothing that you're really getting out of it, then the reading is not for you. And that's fine too, because we know that these readings can't possibly be for every Gemini out there. Now, if you want a reading that is tailored to you and your experience, then you really should book a private reading, and the link for that is in the description, okay? All right, guys, so let's go ahead and get into your Celtic spread for November, my lovely Gemini. One more. All right. All right, straight out we have the devil right at the center. Crossed by Temperance. Wow. All right, two strong major arcana cards coming out right at the center of your reading, Gemini. You are Five of Swords is what's in your conscious mind you're focusing on. Let me bring this down. There we go. And then in your unconscious mind, we have a Five of Wands. Wow. All right. Two fives and a 15 in the middle. This is going to be a month of strife, but we'll get into it. Four of Pentacles and Two of Swords. There is your indecision, all right? You attack the month. You come into the month where your energy is Nine of Cups and you have a High Priestess that's coming at you. You have an Eight of Wands, and then you have a Page of Wands for your outcome, Eight of Wands for your hopes and dreams. All right, guys. Wow. Let me just adjust my lighting. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Magician. Oh, okay. All right. So this is pretty heavy reading. All right. I'm gonna put the bottom of the deck over here so we can refer to it. Magician is at the bottom of the deck, and of course that indicates that underneath all of this, right, one of the energies that is kind of bubbling underneath, going throughout this entire spread is Magician energy. And so it really is talking about playing to your abilities and your skills, right, Gemini, and really being I'm going to say in your sweet spot, as it were, right? Things will be feeling very much magical to you in the sense that you accomplish things very, very easily. Seems to come to you very easily this month, right? Now, the devil and Temperance at the center. Let's talk about this. And the devil is one of the highest cards in the deck for creativity. Why? Let me take a moment with this devil card so we can really understand the nature of what's happening here. Oftentimes, the devil is misinterpreted as a sign of evil, okay? And that's a very Western Christian sort of way of looking at it, and that's a valid interpretation from that point of view, right? If you come from a Hebrew, Judeo-Christian background, right? If you come from a Judeo-Christian background, you may indeed interpret it this way. But with the tarot, it's very different. The devil card is associated with our passions and our sexual energy, our sexual drive. This is the Kundalini energy that we talk about that resides in the pelvic bowl at the second chakra. This is our forward momentum. This is why many of us are defined by our sexual identity. right? Because it is from that place that our desire to go into the world comes from. You know, we have an impetus in us that makes us get up and do things, right? And that impetus that we have, that drive that we have, really begins, the essence of it begins in that area for us. And it really, and in this way, it's very, very personal. Now, the highest form of this essence, this creative potential, right, is when we actually have sex and have a child. We produce a child. This is how this energy is associated actually with our creative potential, right? Now, when our creative potential and our drive forward in the world is connected to a higher objective, like an emotional, aesthetic objective, cerebral aesthetic objective, or a spiritual objective, this desire and this creative potential is what can create things like skyscrapers, works of art, music, painting, orchestral, you know, these beautiful works of art, these really magical works of art that humans are capable of manifesting and creating. They all begin with this essence. Now, the Devil is the 15. The first 5 in the major arcana is the Hierophant. With the Hierophant, we find ourselves committed and dedicated to a higher purpose, right? The Hierophant, we find ourselves, the Hierophant card you will see in the center, almost like the Devil's in the center, you see the Hierophant. He's the highest symbol of our spiritual center here on earth, right? The highest I want to say embodiment, right? And whatever that is for you, it's different for everyone, right? But that's what the Hierophant symbolizes, and symbolizes our commitment to that higher goal. And so the 2 figures in the Hierophant are sat, and they're very kind of humbled, and they pay homage, right? It's a form of paying homage. With the Devil, we find the 2 people chained, as if enslaved. And the reason why is because with the Devil card, we find a lack of commitment. We find an inability to express ourselves creatively. We find, and this can be for various reasons in our life, but when our true desire in life, right, that creative energy and that forward impetus is stifled or is stagnated, right, or is not connected to a higher sort of focus or calling, this is when we find ourselves falling into addiction, instant gratification, codependent relationships. These are dynamics that we fall into that give us a temporary sense of accomplishment or a temporary relief for this desire that doesn't really have a healthy outlet. And this is where we find ourselves enslaved to the Devil, all right? And so this is then what we would normally interpret as being evil, going down a bad path. But all of us have this in us. All of us have the ability to get sidetracked and to get into addictive behaviors. It doesn't only have to be with drugs and alcohol and things that are hugely damaging. It can be a way of acting. It can be a set of behavior patterns that you're kind of habitually using in your life, even though they don't produce healthy results, right? This can be getting addicted to being in toxic relationships or codependent relationships. This is all an example of having that impetus in life stifled. Now, I take a moment to talk about this because it's very important to understand the Devil energy when it comes to tarot, because the Devil card is also associated with Capricorns. We don't say that Capricorns are evil. I mean, I'm sure there are some signs out there that would say that, right? Just the usual inter-zodiac bickering that goes on. But in general, we wouldn't say that all people under the sign of Capricorn are naturally evil. And so in this way, we have to understand the true essence of the Devil. Capricorns are the type of people also who are able to create wonderful, wonderful manifestations of ideas and goals here in the material. And this is a form of the devil energy really rising above and being at its highest level, being able to sort of creatively express itself, right? The danger is when we aren't, and that's when we become the two people who are chained, right? Enslaved by our predilections and addictions. Now, temperance energy comes in across that, and this is completely at odds with each other because temperance talks about not reacting and not getting caught up in addictive behavior and codependency, right? Temperance is 14, the devil is 15. So this month, Gemini, it is as if you are really being put in a position where the worst side of yourself is constantly being tempted to come out, and you're tempering yourself, right? There are people and there's factors in your life this month that are affecting you in that negative devil way. Why do I say that? Why do I take that interpretation of the devil card? Because you are between two fives, and 5 is the number for power struggle, just as the devil is the 15. It's the power struggle between allowing ourselves to fall into instant gratification and that sort of easy route of being satisfied, or to rise above and do the hard work, right? Here we have in your focus this month, you have a 5 of swords. So there's a lot of arguing going on. There's a lot of competition. In the back of your mind is just a 5 of wands, which is also a power struggle. 2 very different ones. Let me just get into it quickly. In the front of your mind, you're dealing with somebody who isn't playing fairly. In your estimation, you're dealing with people who aren't playing fairly. They're cheating. They're being really kind of underhanded. And you really don't feel like engaging them on that level because you know it's taking you down a bad path, right? This is for some of you Geminis who are like, look, stop messing with me. Stop trying to fuck with me, right? And then in the back of your mind, you have a 5 of wands, another heavy power struggle card, which talks about just, feeling like you're in a competition with somebody and who's the best, right? Everybody's arguing over who's the best. This is a lot of one-upmanship. This is just kind of battering each other, bickering with each other, fighting with each other, arguing. No, I'm better than you. You're shit, and I'm. You know what I mean? It's just like really childish because you see these are kind of almost young men who are kind of battering each other with wands, right? And so it's a really kind of petty, bickering kind of troublesome energy. And you're feeling that. But in the front of your mind, you don't even want to engage anymore because you feel like if you carry on engaging in this, you're really going to be brought down to their level. And you're kind of very much wanting to throw your hands up and move and leave a situation. Some of you are caught up in a relationship like this that is really just... I'm going to say that it's just, you're done, right? You are done. You've been fighting, you've been arguing, and not only that, this individual just makes you feel like you constantly have to check them, right? You constantly have to check them. They're constantly, bringing in sort of negative sort of energy into the relationship. Temperance is covering it, so it's like, there's temperance there, but I think it's coming from you, Gemini, in the sense that, you're trying to sort of not get swept up by this individual. You're tempering yourself. You're not trying to react. You're trying not to let this kind of really extremely kind of, and I want to say it's not even so much that this is toxic, because a toxic energy would be like an 8 of swords. That's really toxic. This is just a bad match, right? This is just a bad match. This person just gets on your fucking nerves. You can't talk to them. You can't have a conversation with them. It's always arguing. You feel like you're constantly having to take the high road. They probably are extremely defensive, right? And you find yourself really just feeling like, my God, you know, I'm ready to leave. All right, Gemini, so you come into the month with a Four of Pentacles, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I feel here. And this is a heavy reading to me because it is so specific and to the point. Some of you are dealing with a situation because you have no place to go. You don't have the money to move out. You don't have the money to move on from this. Four of Pentacles is coming in, which is a threat to finances. You feel a destabilization of finances, right? You don't feel confident. You don't know if you have enough money really right now to make it. Let me make sure my camera is focusing. And so I think you're dealing with a situation where somebody in your life, right? Some of you are dealing with somebody in your life who probably has some money or whatever, but you are so sick of being with this person. I'm going to be honest with you. You're so like sick of like being with this person, arguing with this person. But the finances right now are not where they are supposed to be, or certainly you've come into the month with a feeling of like, oh shit, if I leave, will I be able to support myself? And this is not a gold digger situation, Gemini, not at all. This is just a situation of like, I think for some of you, the reason why you have stayed in this is because of that issue. It could be that you have children. It could be that, you know, there are responsibilities and other mitigating factors that just don't allow you to get up and leave right now. All right. And so this is why you're being very tempered right now. You're trying to deal with them. You know, you're trying not to let it get to you. It's a really difficult situation. But what can you do? And you end the month with a Two of Swords, which is quite interesting because the Two of Swords talks about being indecisive, not knowing what to do, not knowing which way to go, right? The one thing I can tell you, right? This is a pretty specific reading about what's going on. So what will I tell you about how to deal with it? The Two of Swords talks about balance. Even though you feel like you have to make a choice, there is a place with this situation where you could find balance. I'm going to say that if you try to have a conversation, or if you think about what's happening here and think about the person that you're dealing with, I think you will be able to get yourself away from them without completely cutting ties and possibly putting yourself into a difficult situation financially. Because Two of Swords does indeed talk about finding answers through balance, in the sense that if you can't choose between two options, Two of Swords, twos are anyway about duality and balance, right? Oftentimes people think that the cards with the two cards of the suits are about making choices. Life isn't about one over the other. It really is a fine web of balance that we find. And it's this understanding that the Two of Swords brings, right? It is Libran kind of energy in that sense. Understanding that, you know, it takes a little bit of this to have a little bit of that. It takes a little bit of that to have a little bit of this. Now, you're exercising a lot of temperance already in this situation. I think that the best way to go forward is to continue with that temperance and to find a way, because this person is probably very easy to handle in a lot of ways because they are so sort of base. Right? Their behavior is sort of so base. I'm going to say it's very childlike, right? And then so in that way, you know, clever Gemini, you can figure out how to, I hesitate saying the word manipulate, but perhaps how to sort of, you know, nudge the situation in the right directions so that you can get your stability the way you need it, right? To take care of what you need to take care of and move forward, and also get a bit of freedom out of the situation so you don't feel like you're so stuck with this individual, right? Because why else would you be putting up with this? Why else? Why would anybody put up with this unless they were forced to in some kind of way? If you're choosing this toxic connection, then you're toxic, right? Then you have to have that conversation with yourself, right? But if you are in a situation like this and you're trying to get out of it and you don't know how, then this is a way to go. If you're just thinking that the only reason you haven't gotten out of it is because you can't pick between the two choices, then what I'm telling you is that there is a third choice, and the third choice is to find that balance and to kind of judge the situation a bit. You come into the month with a 9 of Cups, and your wish fulfillment, you do have a wish fulfillment in the sense that you want to be happy again. I think for some of you, you haven't been happy for quite a while. And you just want happiness again in your life, right? You come into this month with a sense of really wanting your kind of objective to come in, right? How can I, for some of you, you may have been stuck in this situation for a while and may have given up, but you haven't given, you're back to sort of like, I want my happiness. I know I can have my happiness. And the High Priestess meets you, and I think a lot of your answers are going to come into you in the form of an intuition, because I think you're going to have some breakthroughs this month on how to deal with this particular scenario. A lot of your answers will come to you in the form of a gut feeling. And like I said, it could very well be that just up until now, you just haven't had the receptivity to have the right messages come in. And like I said, this month you're feeling very much like magician energy in the sense that it's like you're starting to get on top of this situation. I think for a while the situation probably felt like, it had more control over you than you did over it in a way. But now I think you've learned some things. You've learned some things about this individual. And I think that with this beautiful temperance energy, which is very Sagittarian energy, Gemini, by the way, that's your opposite sign. And so you can resonate or pull on Sagittarian energy sometimes, since it is your opposite. This strong sort of self-composed energy has come in, and I think you've really woken up to a different possibilities in a particular scenario that up until now you couldn't see really any light at the end of the tunnel. Now we're going to pull some more of Thoth cards just to clarify, but the 8 of Wands and the Page of Pentacles. So it's quite interesting. You're ready to move on. You have a desire to move on with this wish fulfillment, your intuitive ability, and your confidence. High Priestess is also one of the highest cards for confidence, self-confidence. Your confidence also increases to take care of this, to deal with this, to move forward with this. And again, we have an 8 of Wands coming in. And so 8 of Wands is quite interesting. This is your position of fear, your hopes and fears, right? And 8 of Wands is that, you're still kind of having a lot of mixed emotions. And I think right now your fear is with this situation that you won't be able to, I think that you won't be able to sort of stick with your resolve, right? This is one of these kind of, matches where there is some codependency here. Right, with the Devil card, there is some codependency here. And I think you have been probably in this position of wanting to leave before or wanting to change things before. But then, you get other feelings coming in and you can't tell which ones are the right ones. You get very sort of, not ambivalent, but confused about how you feel. And I think that what it is that there's some sentimentality here. There's some feeling here for this connection, but you know that you have to end it because it's just too much. This bickering and fighting, it's just too much for you, right? And so you have to sometimes just deal with those sentimental feelings about it and not give in to them for the higher objective and the higher good of getting out of something that's just not healthy for you. Page of Wands comes in, and this is an indication of a new beginning. So for some of you, the outcome is that, of course, if you maintain your resolve and you deal with this situation, the outcome will indeed be a new beginning for you, a whole new beginning, but it'll just be the idea of it, the inklings of it, right? You will believe that there is the chance for it now. You can see this is really the light at the end of the tunnel beginning to come through. For some of you who make the decision to finally focus, right? Focus and really deal with this dynamic, right? Because you just can't keep it up for too much longer. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and get into your clarifying cards. Just going to pull 4 cards for top and bottom and these 2 positions. Just to see what deeper insight we might get. And I think a lot of the reason why you have these mixed emotions, which you're quite afraid of, or not really afraid of, but that's the worst of it, which stops you, is because you see the Two of Swords right there next to it. It's just this constant indecision. Do I leave? Don't I leave? How do I leave? You know, if I leave, does that mean I have to never see them again? I still have feelings for them, but I can't take it. I have to do something. It's going to have to be all or nothing. And then you get yourself convinced of this decision that you feel like you have to make, but you can't make, and then you continue to be sort of bombarded with confusing feelings, right? And so this is kind of a cycle that happens. And I'm going to say, for some of you, you indeed, but it doesn't matter because you rise above it. Certainly with this High Priestess, she's the linchpin really here, because I think before, when you had this kind of feedback loop with yourself, you didn't really have the self-confidence to take it to the next step. Now you have this self-confidence and this intuitive ability beginning to come in. And like I say, you're resonating with Magician energy. So I think you're feeling yourself like you're resonating higher. You're capable of it. You have the self-confidence of it, and you have a strong desire to be happy. Right? This is the thing. The Nine of Cups is, you know, you want happiness so bad, and you're so sick of not being happy, that between that and the self-confidence and the resolve, this is when you will push through this cycle, and in comes the Page of Cups, and finally the promise of something new. Do you understand what I'm saying? So let's get into it. Princess of Cups, Ten of Swords. Yeah, that's the end of it. Eight of Swords and Ten of Wands. Wow. So we have 2 5s and 2 10s. At the bottom of the deck, we have the Star, which is wish fulfillment. This is the Thoth deck, Aleister Crowley deck. This is my original deck that I've had for over 30 years now, but still kind of in good condition, and it's the one deck I really love using, even though I do have the new deck here, which is, you know, more colorful and all that, but I love my old deck because it's the one that I've been using for so long, and it knows me the best. Princess of Cups, let me get right into it. 5 of Swords. Princess of Cups talks about wanting romance and not wanting fighting. You don't want to be with someone you're fighting with all the time. You don't want to be with someone who you deem as being petty. This is a person, their behavior is really unattractive, right? And it's like this constant feeling of like, you know, that they always have to be right. It doesn't matter. You know, you just can't be bothered with it anymore. And Princess of Cups comes in because I think part of the reason why you are really ready to kind of deal with this scenario is because you want to feel romantic again. You want to have a token of love coming in. You don't want it to constantly be a mental gymnastics to deal with this person, right? And so you really desire a real kind of a youthful, nice, you know, love, innocent, romantic love connection. And that's not what's happening with that 5 of Swords. So we have the 2 5s. We also have 2 10s. The first 10 here, it's 10 of Swords. So you are ready to put this behind you. 10 of Swords talks about ruin. It's been ruined. It's enough. It's dead now, right? It is absolutely dead. The bickering and the arguing in the back of your mind, this is your subconscious. You are over it and done with it. For some of you, part of the reason why you'll be able to finally now move on is because it's been long enough and you're just done. 10 of Swords also talks about the death of the old ego. So it's been so long, and everything that's happened has ruined things so much and has really kind of killed every sort of possibility of, I want to say, a revival or reconciliation, that you're not even the same person anymore. 10 of Swords talks about the death of the old you to give rise to a new you. It's like this relation. You've come out of this. You're still probably in this relationship, but it's the tail end. You're coming out of it a completely different person. And I think part of that is means that you don't even want to be with them anymore, right? So this is really a case of like, yeah, you did. You wanted it for a while. But now you're over it. It's done. Now you're over it. And you're ready finally to move on. You don't even, you know, and you may have had some sentimentality there before, right? But it's not really there anymore. And I'm going to show you why. 8 of Swords, 4 of Pentacles, right? So 8 of Swords is this is that toxic energy I was talking about, right? Earlier I was saying this, it's not so much that this is so toxic, right? But it's just a pain in the ass. Here's your toxicity. And I think most recently, probably what's happened is that the relationship, even though it was annoying and irritating, it has now taken a turn, and it has really quite gotten toxic. They've started to really gaslight you, or they've really started to play victim energy, and, you know, really start to like now play on your sympathies or your guilt. They may try to guilt trip you, make you feel guilty over things that aren't your fault, right? And this is just an added sort of like negative, toxic energy on top of all of the money issues. It could very well be that most recently they've started pulling your money strings tighter too, right? So this behavior for some of you could have really now starting to get almost abusive in a sense, because now Eight of Swords is such like narcissistic, toxic kind of gaslighting behavior, and then this fear over money. So I think for some of you, it may have this negative connection may have even ramped up to the point where they're fucking with your money now, right? It may be that, you know, the relationship was one where they took care of all the money, and now all of a sudden when you go to the bank, you can't take as much out, right? They're like putting a cap on what you can spend, or they're watching your money or whatever. You know, they're doing something very sort of toxic that is threatening your financial stability. And I think this is another reason why you're over it. This is just another nail in the coffin. Think about it this way. When people say, you know, another nail in the coffin, think about the Ten of Swords in that way, right? When there's enough nails in the coffin, it's dead, right? That's the implication of that saying. So when you see Ten of Swords, excuse me, think of that to be able to understand what's really going on. It's another nail in the coffin, and then once enough nails, and here we say 10 nails are in, it's done. It's dead. You don't want it. You're done with it. You're over it. They can't get you back. And what rises can't be the same person because it's dead. It's in the coffin, right? So this is how we can, a way for you to sort of understand the Ten of Swords. So this situation here has just added another sword into this scenario, and it's really toppled it over, brought it right to a Ten of Swords. So you're ready to leave this behind. Two of Swords is covered with a 10 of Wands. So where you were before, always kind of ambivalent, unsure, which way shall I go? There may have been some guilt associated with making the right decision to move forward, right? And so this is what's kept you in the land of indecision. Again, you bust right through this and you find out the right way to move forward because of this 10 of Wands. You're done with the burden. You're laying down your burden. Oppression. 10 of Wands is oppression. Saturn in Sagittarius energy. So we're talking about busting free, letting go, not feeling guilty anymore, not carrying those burdens, not carrying the guilt trips that they've put on you, and you are ready to really just get away from this. 5s into 10s lead to aces and new beginnings. 10s are completion. So you're ready, absolutely ready to get out of it. This is a great reading, Gemini. For some of you, you're ready to say goodbye to a toxic relationship. And of course, here's star energy coming in because this is wish fulfillment, right? And star with the Magician is perfect because you have everything you need. This indicates that you have everything you need now, right? The Magician makes use of all of the suits. He has symbols of all of the suits there. So what this means is that now you are able to tap into all of your emotional strength, all of your mental strength, all of your fire strength, and all of your practical ability, which would be earth. You have now access to all of the skills that you need to accomplish what you really want. It can be that up until now you didn't have all of that. But now, because of a series of events and things that have happened, your swords are where they need to be, right? You're done with it. They can't hurt you with this. It's the final sort of, insult to injury, and now your sword has become available. Your wand, you're laying down the burden, so your wand ability has risen and become available, right? You're in touch with your heart and your desire for love, right? So we have Temperance, which is fire and water here. So your ability to tap into what you need for yourself is become available. There's your cup, right? And the last thing is, of course, the practicality, the earth side, and that's available to you as well. Gemini, beautiful, beautiful reading. This is a good reading because this is for those of you who are ready, able, and willing to move on from a really fucked up relationship, I have to say. And it's going to be really, really good this month in November because it makes way for a new beginning. And I know this Page of Wands up here seems very little innocent and sort of like, oh, I'm just a little Page of Wands. But this is the beginning of a new life. Page of Wands indicates the beginning of a new life, and the beginning of a new life that brings youthfulness back into your life. A sense of being young again, being fresh again, being reinvigorated, right? Looking directly to the future. Very nice. All right, Gemini, this is your reading for November. I hope it resonated with you. Please like, subscribe, and share if it did. But for right now, I'm going to leave it at that. And don't forget to check back, hit that bell notification so you can be notified of the mid-November love check-in where we'll see where you're at in the middle of the month. All right, Gemini, you have a great one. Bye-bye.